Hey everybody, I am Allison Freyberg and I am here for the Travel Learning Journal Workshop. You are here because you are going on a trip with us, and we're thrilled about that. And one of the assignments, as you know, is a travel learning journal. So we wanted to give you some ideas and tips about how to do a travel journal. So I'm going to go through some stuff. You are obviously going to go over this with whoever your faculty leaders are. Hopefully, I'm one of your faculty leaders. But if you have other faculty leaders, then you'll obviously talk about your journal, you'll talk about your research project as well. But I'll give you just a few ideas and go over a few things, and then you can launch into your discussion in your classes. So let's chime in, huh? This is who I am. If you want to reach me, you can find me right here, Allison_Freyberg at redlands.edu. As you know, or may not know, I am the Associate Director of International Programs. Professor Michael McQueen is the Director of International Programs, and I am a professor of communication and teach all this stuff. And let's see, I also teach the Writing Lounge. So if you want to cover if you want to go over some tips and strategies for all aspects of your writing, we have the Writing Lounge. And if you go to this site, you'll see all the webinars, topic-specific webinars we've covered. And you can also see what's upcoming. Anyone can come to those. They're absolutely public. So with that, enough about me. Let's talk about your travel journals. Most of these photos I took or students have taken on trips. This is one from Venice. So we're going to talk about the assignment. Now, again, your faculty leader, your instructor may change the assignment, but this is in general what it's going to be about. And that you have to create a learning journal that focuses on the discussions and the concepts and issues from lectures and company visits while we're abroad. Any of the cultural observations, reflections, all that kind of stuff. It's a learning journal. Okay. By the way, these are not meant to be well-designed slides because obviously there's tons of words on them. But what this is meant to be, and your instructor will post a PDF of these, this is a resource guide. So you can read through this on your own. You don't always have to listen to the webinar. Okay, so this is just a research, this is a resource file for you. Now, the journal really has to reflect on your learning. And we're going to talk about ways that that can happen. You're going to be evaluated on your ability to recognize theoretical underpinnings of given issue. You're going to analyze perspectives and issues for their impact, and you're going to synthesize knowledge. Okay, so look at all these. This is Budapest. This is in Cambodia at Angkor Wat, and this is in Paris. Oh no, this is Oxford. And so you're going to have a great time. But we also need to think about how are we going to reflect on what we're experiencing. Okay, let's go over a few format options for your journal. Now, option one, which is often the most, it's the most traditional version. And in this case, you're going to have two major sections in your journal. You're going to have a longer section that includes an entry for each of the business visits or academic lectures that you're going to go to. Usually trips have about 10 of these, and people will be showing you their businesses, presenting their ideas, talking about their strategies. You need to show that you've understood what they've said and that you've reflected on it. And then there'll be a second section where you're going to focus on reflecting about the country that you're in. So there's section one, which covers each business visit. And section two, if you go to two countries, you'll have an entry for each country where you're doing overall country reflections. Now, if you follow my yellow dot here, in section one, when you're writing about a business visit, you need to make sure you can summarize the concepts, strategies, and practices introduced during the visit. And you need to be able to analyze the issues raised in that visit in relation to basically everything that's come before this trip, your professional experience, the work you've done for this course before travel, the work you've done in your academic program as a whole before this course, and just any other knowledge that you have. So this one is really about the stuff you know before this trip. Can you think about this business visit and make connections to what you knew before? Then there should be a space where you analyze this business visit in relation to insights gained while you were abroad or even after, because again, you'll have several weeks after you return home to generate this learning journal. So summarize and then connections to stuff before, connections to stuff after. And then your section 2, you really want to analyze the business environment, make general country specific, but observations about how things are happening in that specific country. Okay. And you're going to reflect on events, insights, that kind of stuff. So that's option 1. It's driven by entries per business visit. Now, that might look something like this. So a typical entry for option 1 might be, so this is section 1. Here's the visit. We went to Ebenezer's Marketing. We didn't really go to Ebenezer's Marketing. I made that up. And you'd put the date and the city, the country, and the topic, right? And maybe you want 2 or 3 sentences about where you are in the trip. Like this is our first business visit, and it was a rainy day, and we got on the tube, and I've never been on the tube before, and here we were at the business 15 minutes later. Okay, just something to set the context, know where we are, and then you're going to do those 3 things, right? You're going to summarize what happened on the visit. You're going to analyze based on stuff you knew before. You're going to draw connections to that. And then you're going to analyze in relation to other visits or stuff you learned during the journey or after. Okay. You need to think that each entry for the visit should be about 3 to 4 pages. Now, I know you're doing math in your head right now. And if you're thinking, wow, we have 10 business visits, so that's 30 to 40 pages, plus we went to 2 country visits, that's several more pages. And yes, you're right. And that's why we're having this workshop, to make sure that you are ready to produce what ends up being quite a long document, but can also be a very exciting document. Honestly, I love reading the journals. I love hearing about what you experienced, and it's just my favorite assignment to look at when you come back. Now, section 2 is going to be overall country reflections, right? You can just do that at the end after you've done section 1 with all your business visits. And this one should probably be about 7 to 10 pages if you've gone to 2 countries. If you've gone to 3 countries, it might be even more. And so yeah, you're thinking 40, 50 page document, easy. All right. Now, there's a second option for doing the journal, and that is the what we call the integrative or chronological version. And that's where you go day by day, and that makes a lot of sense, right? To go day by day and not and kind of include multiple aspects during that day. This is a very exciting way to do the journal, but it's also a way that can get you into a lot of trouble, because there's a tendency when you're doing daily entries to just jot down what you did and have no reflection in there, no analysis, really short summaries of the business visit, and that's not what we want. We want you to really work on those business visits. Okay, so, but you do organize chronologically. You need to, as I say there, briefly describe the activities and events of the day to set the context. So yeah, you do want to tell us what happened that day. but that shouldn't be more than probably 10 to 15% of the post. And you want to thoroughly explain and analyze the content and concepts of any lecture or business visit. And you want to fully reflect on the cultural, social, and political observations made throughout the day. So yeah, you got to summarize, and then again, you're going to analyze in relation to stuff that happened before or stuff that you knew before leaving for this trip, and that stuff in relation, analyze in relation to stuff you're learning during the journey or after it. Okay, so it still captures everything that's in option one, but it does it in a different format for option two. And there's some insight in terms of what makes for better chronological or integrative journals. Option three is an alternative one. You get to propose it. You get to propose something. You know, we don't want to limit you. Have at it. One of the things that we really recommend, and we've been fortunate recently, and I'm hoping this will continue, we actually have a spatial seed grant where we can offer small grants for those of you who, for example, the best story map, that's an application that integrates maps and text and video and photos into one document and it's a great platform for one of these journals. So we do recommend trying out a story map. They're really easy to do. They've made it so much easier in recent years. And basically, if you can do an Instagram post, you can make a story map. And but if you wanted to do a blog, if you have some other idea, the only thing you need to do is you need your faculty leader's approval for this option. If you're going to choose option three, you need to get the okay from a faculty member because we need to make sure that you're actually meeting the assignment's objectives. Okay, these are live links, so you'll be able to learn, have a little tutorial about story maps here, and when you want to start making one, just click there. And it's really intuitive, and there's tons and tons of tutorials on YouTube. I just chose one that gives you a good overview. Okay, so those are your three options. Again, what I think you should do as soon as you get to class is talk about the assignment with your faculty leader. Okay. But here are some general tips. This, by the way, is Trieste, Italy, which I describe as my home away from home. And here are some general tips. Write every day on the trip. You're not going to want to write every day on the trip. You're going to be tired. Write every day on the trip. Give yourself 30 to 45 minutes because you're just not going to remember stuff. Number two, share information and collaborate with others on the trip so you have the details correct. You're going to forget who was the presenter at company X, who did what, where, what that couple you talked with. You're not going to remember, right? What's really fun is even just gathering together at a pub or a cafe or even in the hotel lobby with others for half an hour in the evening and just talking about what happened during the day and taking some notes together and giving yourselves chances to write. Number three, you can take video or make voice recordings during your trip. Okay, sometimes you just use those phones, make a voice recording, get some notes down any way you seem to be able to. Quick video, voice recordings, all that kind of stuff. The more you can gather at the moment, the better, because you're not going to remember. Number four, please remember that pictures do not paint 1,000 words. They paint 0 words. Words paint words. Whatever journal format you choose, go ahead. You're going to include photographs. That's fine. That's great. But the heavy lifting needs to be done by the words. It's about what you're saying that creates the analysis and the reflection. Tip there with photos, you geotag your photos and videos because you're going to look at the 10,000 videos you've taken during the trip and go, where was that? And if you let your phones geotag them, then you'll know where it is. And this is usually the default these days on phones, but but do that, okay? And don't just rely on your postings to social media because those things tend to disappear. Number 6, avoid weasel words that shut down analysis and reflection. Look at this. These are the words that ruin journals. Interesting, delicious, amazing, wonderful, beautiful, awesome. They mean nothing because they mean a million things to a million people. Anytime you see those kinds of words, that's your signal to dive in and really provide the details and specifics that led you to feel that something was amazing. Don't just tell us things were interesting or amazing. That's lousy journal writing. Make us feel what you felt. Number 7, you do want to avoid reviewer mode, okay? This is not TripAdvisor or Yelp. You want to help us experience what you experienced and see how you arrived at your analysis and your reflection. You don't want to sit there and evaluate the business presentation by the person at the company who gave it. Right? You're not there to review them. Well, they spoke really well in the first 20 minutes, and then, I didn't quite understand them the second. That's not what a journal's about. Okay. Number 8, think of the journal as more than an assignment to complete. Look, we know it's an assignment to complete, and it's a big assignment. I think it's the most important assignment in one of our courses, in our study abroad courses. But if you can create this document to be something you want to pick up a year from now and reread, that's exciting. And it becomes more about you than about fulfilling an assignment requirement. So if you can get into that space, that's fantastic. Okay. Now I'm going to take a few more sections. Remember, no matter what in the journal, you're going to summarize business visits and presentations. Number 2, you're going to analyze in relation to stuff you knew before. And number 3, you're going to analyze in relation to stuff you learned during the experience or after it. So let's start off with summarizing business visits and presentations. This is the Piazza in Trieste. It's the largest water facing, because I'm standing literally on the edge of the water taking this picture. Largest piazza water facing in Europe. It's spectacular. Okay, when you are summarizing business visits and presentations, please review wisely. Okay, famous last words, I kind of put those in because this is what I hear and I know, uh-oh, we're in trouble. When someone says something like, hey, if I just mention all the points made, I'll definitely cover the important ones and I'll show that I've listened to everything. No, you will have simply thrown a lot of words onto a page and it'll show you were there, but it doesn't show that you understood anything. So maybe what you want to do is talk about a couple, 2 or 3 key concepts that were raised that really intrigued you, that helped you understand the company, and talk about how they're related, right? Pro tip, isolate something in the lecture or visit that surprised you in some way. That's usually a great way to review wisely, to summarize well. Okay, and these are all just pictures of us on our journeys. Number 2, you have to show you understand the concept, the strategy, or the practice that you're being introduced to in the company visit or the lecture, right? Don't just sit there and go, hey, everyone was there. They know what the concept means. I don't need to waste time defining it. Yes, you do. Show us you understand, okay, as the speaker defined it. Summarize. This is the summary section where you're explaining the visit. You should also try to explain the context of that concept, right? This is what makes it really different than learning it from a book. You're in it, you're immersed in it, you're seeing the context. Why is the speaker talking about what they're talking about? What about the examples used? How does it relate to other areas of the presentation? How do the ideas relate to each other? And again, if you're in this place where you're saying, as long as I can list what the major points are, I'm covered. No, you're not. Here's a little cheat sheet if you want to help you in your note taking when you're at the visits, rather than just scribbling notes or tapping a million things onto your tablet or your phone. You can fill in this chart. Print out a chart like this and use that to take notes, right? What's the concept in the, or the turn in the presentation? What's the definition? What were the examples used? Can you think of references to other sources? Was there essential quotes or phrases? You can use this chart to help you get through and summarize the business visit. All right. This is Cambridge, I think. So for those of you heading off to Cambridge, this is the River Cam. Okay. And let's see. So now we're going to try to focus on analyzing in relation to past experience. That's past academic work, past professional experience, all the stuff you're bringing with you to this trip. Here are some tips. Please remember that your experience means more than your business experience. You are a whole person with a vast array of experiences and knowledge gained. You don't just have to focus on your business experience. This is actually at the Mandela House in South Africa, and we were there a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic. And that's a student, and it was a remarkable visit. So if you feel yourself saying, I'm doing a business degree, so it's only my business experience that matters, know that you're really shutting down opportunity to reflect and analyze. Right? Try to, before you go, build an inventory of knowledge gained in prior coursework. Okay, if you're taking this as a capstone, then you've done all your coursework. If you're taking this, it's for some other substitution, you've still done a bunch of your coursework. So what you want to do is sort of get that all in your head, because when you're over there, things are going to be coming at you so fast and you're going to be tired. So the more you can kind of put in your toolbox before you go there, the better. Since your journal needs to connect and compare knowledge gained in your classes, gained in the pre-departure classes as well, try to get those in order before you head off. The other thing that I want to remind you to do is to explain how and why concepts are relevant to your experience or coursework. So many journals end up getting to the point where they say, oh, and I see a connection with of X to my course in analytics that I took last fall. And the connection was to concept Z. And then next topic. It's like, no, you've just started. What is it about concept Z that reminded you about what was going on the trip in this business visit? That's the opening line. It's not the end line. So remember, if you identify a connection, that's the beginning point. Or if you identify a contrast or a conflict, that's the beginning of discussion, not the end of it. Show us how you got there. Show us how the connection is relevant. This, by the way, we're at Plitvice National Park in Croatia. and we hiked all the way into the waterfall. Please remember that concepts are rarely irrelevant. So let's say we're visiting a French insurance company and you say, hey, that lecture about French insurance regulation has absolutely nothing to do with my topic for your research paper or your work. Chances are you can find connections. Chances are we're not, well, I guarantee you, we're not going to be going to business visits only in your field. But this is your chance to understand how people work in different places, how operations function, what labor practices are like, what just even looking around the facility or the office is going to lead you to make connections. Don't foreclose on analysis because something doesn't seem on the surface to be relevant. Okay, here we're at a winery in northern Italy. Be specific, state the significance of your findings. Okay, I can't tell you enough how often travel learning journals are vague, general nothings. I don't know how else to say it. So if you're saying things in your journal like, knowing about the French insurance industry will make me a better and more competitive business person in the US, you're not doing what you need to do. Because you could have put anything in there. Knowing about Ely coffee will make me a better and more competitive business person in the US. Knowing about DV wines is going to make me a better business person. No, if you can just plop in the company or the industry, you're not revealing anything. Dig into specifics and the significance. Get out of the vague slogans. Okay. And our last section is going to be on analyzing insights gained during travel. Okay, and same kind of stuff, right? This, by the way, is Burano, which is an island about 45 minutes away from Venice. If you find yourself saying it's better to list all the connections to other businesses visited and experiences on the trip so that I show that I'm comparing, no, 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 no. Again, it's much better to say a lot about less than it is to say a little about a lot. Because when you say a lot about less, you're digging in and revealing things that we don't already know. And that's what we want to see in your journals. Okay, we assume you've done all the work for the course. And we assume you've made many, many connections. Dig into a few, reveal something, and that will be more helpful in a learning journal. Embrace changing thoughts and perspectives. Practice reviewing, seeing things again. Learning journals are about learning. It's okay to change. We want you to see, we want to see those perspectives shifting. We want to see transformation. We want to see how you struggled with something. Okay, keep track of what surprised you. Keep track of what you didn't expect. Interrogate your own assumptions about business, about management, about leadership, about working life, about life. Embrace the idea of seeing things new. Those make for great journals. All right, and when you're doing your overall country reflections, I want to draw you to your, this is the voice of experience. This is Hemingway. Okay, and I don't usually quote Hemingway. I'm not a huge Hemingway fan, but I love this part in terms of reflecting and noticing things. He says, listen now. When people talk, listen completely. Don't be thinking what you're going to say. Most people never listen, nor do they observe. You should be able to go into a room and when you come out, know everything that you saw there and not only that. If that room gave you any feeling, you should know exactly what it was that gave you that feeling. Try that for practice. When you're in town, stand outside the theater and see how the people differ in the way they get out of taxis and take motor cars. There are 1,000 ways to practice, and always think of other people. That's from 1935. It's such good advice in terms of noticing. Try to notice everything. Okay? I think the greatest challenge for journal writing is in terms of being specific, in terms of helping us experience what you experienced. So if you're saying, hey, I don't have time for details, I need to get to the big conclusions, you're not doing the journal well. Think about it this way. Here's a chart for you. What did you see? What did you hear? What was said? By whom? When? What happened? What did people do? Who did what? What did you feel? What effect did it have? How could you tell? Right? Think about what Hemingway is saying. Notice what happens in these so-called unimportant moments. In train stations, on subway rides, walking into a restaurant, the hotel lobby, talking to the waiter. Look at the sky. Look at what's in the trash can, what's hanging in the wall during a corporate visit, how the tables are arranged. What do these things tell you? Spend some time on this. Notice everything. And then you focus in order to reflect, right? Notice repetitions and patterns. Notice what you don't see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. Notice assumptions that ground conversations, cultures, experiences, what you're seeing. Notice what seems to be unimportant or dismissed. Discover unexpected similarities and unexpected differences. Try this technique. Make in your note-taking. Notice what's interesting, strange, and revealing. Make columns. Just do that. And it'll give you an inroad into reflection. Find connections and build narrative. Okay, you do not have to be creative. No one's asking you to be creative. I am not creative. But I have spent a lot of times learning how to be precise, analytical, and illustrative. You can too. You need to show us what you're noticing. You need to build those connections. You need to build narrative. The worst journals are the ones that go, and then we did this, and then we did that, and then we did this, and then we did that. We know what you did. We designed the program. Okay? We want to know what you think and felt and were moved by doing what you did. Okay, in terms of common journal disasters, we all know that's the Eiffel Tower. So often, study abroad journals just say everything's awesome and things were interesting and there's no analysis, no reflection, no connections, all that kind of stuff. No, it's just a running list of what we did. We just talked about that. Don't do that. Instead, create space for reflection in your note-taking process. So maybe you have two columns, or maybe if you're using a book that you're just writing in, on the left side, explain or summarize what's going on. But on the right-hand side, reflect and analyze, ask questions, all that kind of stuff, right? Then you build reflection and analysis and contemplation into the note-taking process. Okay. Or maybe during the day, what you do is you fill in this column explaining what happened. And that 30 minutes you have at night that you're going to write, Maybe you fill in the right-hand column and start reflecting and wondering and connecting. Just a technique for you. All right, let's do a little recap. This is Versailles. So, journal assignment options, you have option 1, which is the business visit entry, option 2, chronological, or option 3, propose your own. We've got the story map option. And for each case, you're going to have to summarize the business visits. You're going to have to analyze issues in light of knowledge gained before your travel, and then analyze issues in light of knowledge gained during and after your travel, and provide overall country reflections. There's a summary of the general tips we've just gone over. And then here's a summary of all the tips in each of those sections. Summarizing business visits, analyzing in relation to past experience, and analyzing insights gained during travel, and then the overall country reflections. And that concludes our Travel Learning Journal workshop. Your instructors will provide you with these slides, this learning guide, so you actually have it as you work on the assignment. Have a great trip. I can't wait to hear about it.